Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Hidden Valley in the Northern Territory for round 6 of the championship from Darwin. And I've got my team of lunatics by my side for the next 90 minutes for another exciting instalment of the panel beat. It's a very good evening and welcome to Gregory Rust.
You're on a power trip tonight, aren't you? I noticed that you have raised your seat, you've lowered Brad's and mine.
That's
you're telling us you're in your place,
That's
aren't you?
right, yeah.
Gee, he's coming out firing tonight, folks.
Stay down there or else. Welcome, Bradley.
Hello, thanks, Neil.
Geez, he's full of personality tonight. We'll move right along. Cito, welcome to the program again from Dick Johnson Racing.
Hello, Neil.
It's going to be a bumper show.
Yeah, this will be riveting, so enjoy the next 89 minutes. You're going to have a great time. Welcome to Stephen Ellery.
Hi, Neil. How you going?
Oh, it's very good to see you, Stephen. And, gee, you've had a wonderful day today. Let's just talk motor racing and ignore these other pelicans on my left-hand side.
Why not?
You must want to get on the show more often.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Grease up to the teacher. I'll bet you were like that at school, weren't you?
I was always in the front row.
Yes, sir, no, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I never made paper planes.
We've had a couple of hours of practice today. That's the 2-hour session that we're seeing at race meetings now. I think most people got some productive work done one way or another. 34 cars in the field this weekend, and the fastest man today was Todd Kelly, so he moves along strongly from his performance in China. Paul Morris was second quickest, then Stevie Richards was third. Don't look at me like that, Bradley, it puts me off. Then Craig Lowndes was fourth quick. Simon Wills, Russell Ingle, Mark Scaife, Paul Radisich, John Bauer, Craig Baird. That was the top 10, so Bairdo looks okay there. Then we had Winterbottom, Ritter, Tander, Ambrose, a bloke called Glenn Seaton in 15th. Then Jason Richards, Bargwana, White, Owen, Johnson, Wilson, Bernard, Davison, Ellery. Hello, Stephen.
I won't say anything about that.
Jones. In fact, tonight we're going to call them by their part numbers. He's 24 and he's 25. Paul Wheel, Jason Bright, Rick Kelly, McConville, Dumbrell, Murphy, who had a pretty tough day, then Andrew Jones, Tratty and Jamie Whincup, who's got the mysterious misfire back in a big way in that car. What have we got on the program tonight? Well, we've got a bloke called Seaton, a bloke called Ellery, a guy called Jason Bargwana, who will be joined by another Jason Bright, and an old colleague of ours that we met at the Williams factory in about 1933. What year was that? 1994. Bradley and I went to the Williams factory.
He did the official tour for us.
He did the official tour. And Bradley misbehaved, as you can imagine, went to places he shouldn't have been in and touched the cars when he shouldn't have touched things. And generally
you
spread...
can't believe that. No one would believe that.
Like Louis the Fly from Albury, spread disease with the greatest of ease.
Never been invited back.
Never been invited back. Ian
well,
Harris.
I mean, you know, those Castellani brothers were giving Frank Williams, Ducati motorbikes, and he's never going to use them. I just saw you and I look good on one.
Oh, that's nice. Frank, that'll get back.
Well, that's happened 10 years ago, don't you remember? That was part of the gig.
1994.
Jesus, you're
It's 11 years ago.
Yeah, I was only a kid.
We
he was
went to
pushing
the
me in a pram.
We went to the Donington Motor Racing Museum, and he climbed the rope and got in all the cars he wanted to get in. And I was going off my tree.
He was.
To say, get out of the cars before you get thrown out of here.
He wouldn't take a picture. I had a camera. I climb into a couple of really nice Formula 1 cars and go, hey, can you take my picture? Get out of that car. You'll get us thrown out of here. Just take the picture. I'm not taking the picture. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
That is one of the most fantastic museums there, though.
Yeah, and the cars are all pretty comfortable, too. I reckon I could have driven one of those old Formula 1 cars.
He molested Jonesy's old Beatrice Lola. And
the only picture he'd take was of me standing beside it.
Yeah,
I climbed in it twice. He wouldn't take a picture.
That's another story. So Ian Harrison is our guest tonight, one of the directors of 888 Race Engineering, and obviously Stephen's boss down there. Good boy, that Stephen Ellery. I've always said he's a good lad. And he'll be looking after you this weekend because Roland Dane's AWOL. What's he on a holiday somewhere, on a junket, or what's he up to? Shopping at Better Electrical?
Riding a Harley Davidson in France somewhere.
So he's on a junket. I was right, wasn't I?
Gee, the pressure's really hard for Roland, isn't it?
Things are really tough at Better Electrical. So, I mean, Lowndesy scored a couple of points in a tin cup and Roland's gone on holiday. So his mission's done.
Yeah.
We've got lots of things to talk about. We probably should first of all wrap up from China. Have you got any of that information to hand on your brand new laptop that's unsponsored?
Very impressive.
This space here is available.
It does look good, doesn't it? I actually just want to say that I thought it was a...
Get the porn off there and concentrate on actually,
speaking of porn, we've had some fantastic feedback from Rusty's proposal, haven't we, Neil?
Yeah.
A lot of people have sent emails, and in fact, they're wondering whether you could probably run through it again on 10 RPM or something like that, you know, with the hidden camera in the flower on the...
Scafey really enjoed that night.
Yes, so did I.
Did you enjoy China, boys? Seriously, let's
China.
move along.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, Rusty. I thought it was great. What about you?
I thought it was good. I'll tell you what was a real eye-opener was actually going for a ride with the taxi driver. I was more scared in the taxi than I was in qualifying over there.
how can they possibly say they can't find a driver to drive a V8 Supercar? All they need to do is go out and get in a cab. Man, nah, crazy. I had one cab push another cab into those barriers on the side of the road and flip the mirrors in. Like it was...
The guy that was driving us, he was fantastic, and I reckon at least a dozen times every trip to and fro, we'd go, whoa! It was the whole bit, we'd squeeze other blokes up into the fence, and it was better than the stuff that goes on the racetrack.
And I bet you the driver started laughing.
Yeah, he did.
Everyone who went into it, when he went, oh, go.
Yeah,
don't speak any English, but I can see when you're twitching.
It was. I think everybody would generally agree it was above expectation. It was a great trip. I think everybody had a good time. A few question marks over the layout of the track, and that not only came from the V8 Supercar drivers, but when the Formula 1 guys were there a year ago, there were a few people who thought that when you consider that they started with a clean sheet of paper and that kind of drew that, it looked as though they might have just been trying to fill in the blank.
The actual reason for it is it's shaped like the Chinese symbol for Shanghai, which stands for on over there. So they've actually tried to give it a bit of, local. Seriously, it is. It is based around the design of a Chinese word.
But the one in Bahrain is the same, isn't it?
Yeah. So what's it shaped around?
I have no idea.
The bar and the rain.
Is there an S in Bahrain? Sorry, Rusty.
Yeah, nice. Good. Yeah, this is going really well. I'm glad I came along tonight.
So we wanted to...
Hey, there was one good thing over there, though.
Just go ahead and speak. Go ahead and talk.
No, the traffic lights, the way they count down to let you know that you can go. I thought that was pretty tricky.
But
on the road.
I didn't even notice that.
I've got to say, there wasn't many of them that took any notice of
Oh,
them.
no, they didn't take any notice of them.
Particularly the scooter rides. The scooter rides, I couldn't believe. The lights would go red, and the scooter rides would be firing across these intersections at 50 and 60 mile an hour.
Yeah, no helmets.
My missus
Right.
nearly got hit by a cab because we went bing and started counting, and she's wandered off, and I grabbed her and gone, hey, when there's a scooter going through.
So did you guys go silly with your credit card like this monkey or not?
Yeah, I think not my credit card, but I went to the markets and came home with about 50 plastic bags full of junk and gave it to the wife and kids, and they're happy. So
good. Yeah. Cito, did you have a spend while you're over there?
Yeah, I reckon it was a great education on the Monday. Going out to the markets there and bartering with them.
Oh, wasn't that great? I love that.
You go in there and they say, okay, for a shirt it's 250 whatever it is, Chinese money.
Yeah.
And you go,
Shekels.
no, I'll give you 120. They go, no, you're killing me. But in the end, you walk away and they go, okay.
Yeah, don't forget to tell your friends to come back. Yeah. A friend of mine bought a copy of Madagascar. I know they're legally pirated. I wouldn't want to own it, but
how are the subtitles, Brad?
Yeah, subtitles.
Anybody watching at Disney.com, send your email to Brad Jones at.
No, I'm telling you, it's not me. In fact, it was John Bow, but I don't want to name it. But when the kids were watching it, about 10 minutes in, someone obviously needed to go to the John or something, you see a shadow get up on the movie and leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And the subtitles are completely unrelated. It's
got nothing to do with the movie. The subtitles
I must divorce you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, there's some of the colourful aspects of behind the scenes in the most recent roundup in China. There were some business issues at hand, and today the stewards and the IPO, the investigating and prosecuting officer, decided to come up with conclusions from the matters arising from the race meeting, the matters that were held over from round 5 in Shanghai. And Garth Tander was found to be in breach of the rules for careless driving 6.7.2 in regard to an incident between himself and John Bow, and that was during race 3. They imposed a drive-through penalty equivalent to 35 seconds to be added to car number 16's race time, so that'll have implications in the results and therefore the points.
He didn't finish anywhere anyway, did he?
Don't know. Need to go. That's another file that I haven't got open at the moment. Marcus Ambrose.
He came from about 1.5 kilometres back. He was just in front of me.
Marcus Ambrose was pinged $5,000 for missing a media and promotional event, so he's 5 light tonight. That sounded quite good, didn't it?
Yeah, 5 light tonight. I think the fines are getting a bit out of hand, which is something we can talk about. I'd be interested to see what you two think. But $5,000 here, 10 grand there, 30 grand here. It's a lot of money. I think they're a bit harsh. All
other matters investigated from round 5. No breach of the rules was found. However, matters arising from practice 1 today, and Ford Performance Racing was found to be in breach of the rules when a team member entered into a prohibited area. Stewards imposed a fine of $2,500. Matty White.
Jesus, what did he do?
I think they found him in a pawn shop somewhere in town, and
buying a copy of Madagascar. Good on him.
Matthew White was done for exceeding the maximum number of laps during a practice session, and
what did that cost?
Two grid positions.
Yeah.
there you go. That's the news of the moment relating to not only China but this race meeting so far.
I'm intrigued why you think it's out of control.
I think
the whole idea of those fines was to try and, you know...
That's right, and if you speak to someone, they'll tell you, well, it's got to be enough to make a difference, but that's not the way it works with the normal road traffic authority, does it? There's a fine, and it doesn't matter whether you're poor or rich. You could be Kerry Pack, you still pay $115 or whatever it is for being 15 kilometres under when you're over the limit, and 250 if you're 30 k's plus or whatever over the limit. What I'm saying is they're too harsh, and they're aiming them towards the top end of the drivers, and some of the blokes down the back, you know, like, I don't know.
Like one of our guests later in the program, Jason Bargwana, who's crying poor over there. He just steps out of his Learjet to come and talk to us tonight.
Not every one of these guys can. I mean, okay, Marcus is on a big wedge. Everyone knows that. $5,000's probably not that big a deal to him, but it's a big deal to some of the other guys. You know, if you look at Jamie Whincup, or you talk about Andrew,
it's a big deal when you're a cheap freckle like Rusty and I.
That's it. You know what I'm saying, don't you? I mean, I think the fines are a bit hefty for...
So what's the solution?
We should actually point out, though, contrary to popular belief, the fines
just
go
interrupt
into...
whenever you're
well,
ready.
that's what you do to me. So the fines go into a pool and then get redistributed at the annual awards dinner and what have you, and for other things. They don't go back into some CAMS pot that makes anybody wealthy. Anyway, go ahead, Bradley. It was a valid point.
I'm not sure that that's exactly what happens, but I think whatever they find the blokes who run in the development series for speeding in pit lane and all those sort of normal infringements, we should be fined that amount. We shouldn't be fined more just because we're in the main game. If those blokes are racing and they get fined $300 for going over the speed limit in pit lane, then that's what we should be getting fined, not $1,000. And it should be the same in both the classes.
Written and authorised by Brad Jones
for
the Whinger Party.
Do you two agree with that or disagree?
I can't believe $5,000 for missing a PR.
Yeah, I just think it's
just bizarre.
It's too much.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? It's here. It's written down.
I know, but it's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of dough.
All right, so you agree?
But it might be. I got a feeling this is testing my
very unusual.
That he might have been in strife for something else earlier in the year, so it might be a second whack at it, which is why the reason.
Suspended $5,000.
No, I don't think so.
I got a feeling he might have dodged something else earlier in the year as well.
Yeah, I'll nearly back you on that. I can't.
Yeah, I got a feeling that he, because we know that Marcus is not hugely in favour of a lot of the media and PR activities involved in the series.
But I think $5,000 is a bit. $1,000, yeah, that's still a lot of money. Yep. $5,000, that's too hard.
Yeah, I think
don't
it's
care
a bit
who
silly.
you are.
We'd like to hear from you on that. What do you think the solutions
fire us
are?
an email.
Panel beaters at bigpond.com. We've got the latest odds coming for this round of the championship, the 6th round. Remember, we've had 5 different round winners so far. That's something that's not happened before in the opening sort of history of the championship, if you like. Marcus Ambrose, these are from sportingbet.com.au, $4.50 to 1 for a win this weekend. Same odds for Mark Scaife. Todd Kelly, winner of the last round at 5s. Stephen Richards, 9 to 1. The same for Craig Lowndes, winner of the Eastern Creek round. Greg Murphy at 15. Same for Ingle. Jason Bright out to 17s, 41 to 1 for Rick Kelly. They're having some troubles there in the HSV dealer team, aren't they? They had a tough run in Shanghai. Paul Radicic, Team Kiwi, $51. Garth Tander the same, incidentally. Jason Richards, 81. Stephen Johnson, 81. $101 for Paul Wheel.
What do you get back on Cito?
Simon Wills,
not even on the list.
Here.
It's $121. Your money's better spent on Cito than it is on Rick Kelly. They've got
$1 will get you $121
what
back.
About
if
my
Glenn
good mate
Seaton
Steve
wins.
Ellery? Where's he at here?
126.
Don't feel alone, Steve. You're down with me, mate.
Jamie Whincup, 126. Paul Dumbrell, 151. Same odds for Bargwana, who'll join us shortly, and Paul Morris as well. Max Wilson and Greg Ritter, $201 to 1. 251 for White, Winterbottom and Baird, and we've got to go all the way to find
Bradley.
the Joneses, folks.
Bradley!
Right at the bottom.
250! How can you be behind Andrew?
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So it's the same odds, both of them.
If you put some money on Bradley and he wins, you get $251, which is more than his net worth. Which is,
very true. They'll give you an idea how tough things are, $5,000 fines.
Let's quickly debrief what happened today with the boys. We ran through
Who's
the
the
times
plonker that works that out?
That'd be our very good friends at the TAB.
That's right.
Yeah, all they know about is horse racing anyway.
We talked about the times before. How was your day? 2 hours of practice today. Give us a bit of a debrief.
Yeah, oh, it was fantastic. I had a great day today.
Something less than 60 seconds would be handy.
Well, went round and round and round. Someone put some oil down near the end. Who was it that put the oil down, by the way? Does anyone know?
Don't know. Traddy was saying that some plug fell out of the bottom of his car,
Oh,
so
blame
maybe
him.
it was him.
Traddy put some oil down towards here.
Sounds good.
And
He's not here, so you might as well
that's
just...
it.
Yeah, and
just pick on him.
And I'm struggling with the car. How was your car, Glenn?
My car was good, actually. For the times
15th,
that we
10-1,
we
that's
ended
not
up
bad.
15th, and that was on used tyres.
Brand new tyres, yeah.
No, used.
No, we saw you
mine
put
was
them
actually on used tyres. Which I
What
was
was
actually
wrong
going to throw some new ones on until
They
I
were
oiled
the-
them down
What
the
happened
end,
to
but-
Stephen?
We observed that.
Were they the
Sorry?
tyre...
What happened to Stephen? His car was in the garage for a long time there at the end of the session. Did he break
Just
something?
doing changes. No, just doing changes on the car throughout the session.
Did you use the tyres that were on the Escort back there in 19...
Yeah, I was
did
gonna
actually.
say, what about the
What a
source of
weapon, eh?
inspiration here, folks? We've got a photo. Where are we here? It looks like
That
Corner
looked good.
Park,
I'm
is
sure
it?
they can pick that
Yeah,
up.
for those of you...
Surfers Paradise.
For those of you
Surfers
with
Paradise
extra...
race day
And that was a reverse grid event, that one?
was.
It was.
Yeah.
I had to start off the back in that one because it was a reverse grid.
Yeah,
Beautiful little red Mark 1
I've heard
Escort at the
everything
back.
now.
Welcome to Cito's Slide Night.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be a fun program? Here I am changing into third gear when I was 18.
For all those insomniacs. It's not looking like a reverse grid.
It is. It
Why
was
are all
a
the
reverse-
fast cars at the front?
No, they're not fast.
Really?
No.
They've got big wings. You got nothing. And you know what? I think you're lying to us. Anyway.
Now, Glenn, before we get a full debrief from Steve on his day, I spoke to you the other day, and you were on your way from Queensland Raceway back home. You'd been testing your dad's Capri.
That's right. Actually, he runs in that NC class, which is a historic class, and he's built a 1971 Capri, which we've been doing some miles with, and it's fantastic.
Good fun?
I've got
Good to
say,
drive?
it's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Did he try to find his old car? Or did
He's
you
still
just...
got the old car.
Oh,
He's still
really?
got the old car that I started in and he finished in.
So
So
he
it's in
did-
the garage at home.
didn't
But you
wanna
can't
run
run
that?
that because it's not pre-72.
Oh, okay.
So we had to build this new one, which is a real early model, pre-72, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
For what reason? Because it slides
Well,
around. And
yeah, it's on a road radial tyre, which has got very little grip. It's got about 300 horsepower, weighs about 1,000 kilo, and it's actually, because it slides around a lot, it makes it really enjoyable. It's not overpowered for the tyre, and it's not overweight for the tyre. The only thing, it just doesn't stop very well. It's not very exciting in the braking department.
Yeah, that never gives you much confidence, does it?
No, not at all. But it's a really strong car. And actually, I would love to run it in some of these main historic events that come along with us.
Yep.
But pick a track that the car will be reasonably competitive, which we don't go to Winton anymore, so we can't go there.
What was your first race car, Steve?
Formula Ford.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Bloody
It was
high.
actually Russell Ingall's championship winning car, so the one he won the 1990 championship in. So
you bought it
a
off
pretty
him?
good car, yeah.
Would have had good stuff in it by the
Oh,
time
yeah.
you got it.
Oh, yeah.
Full bent wheels.
Trust
on
me,
three
it had all the good
cylinders.
stuff.
Yeah, Rusty always hands on all the good stuff.
What was your first race car?
I drove my brother's 620B Elfin and did one race in that, and then I ended up with the L1002 Formula Ford, and it was sponsored by Bizzolari.
Oh, you don't have to plug them now. That was
I don't think they even have Bizzolari mineral water here anymore, do they?
that was actually 37 years ago. No one cares. That bloke is not going to give you another case of sparkling mineral water.
Oh, no, I think he's dead.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Dear
Right,
me.
he wasn't spring
now,
chicken in those days.
A lot of people covet the notion of going for a ride in a V8 supercar, and today one of the more high-profile men in our country from politics got his opportunity to go for a run. The Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer, went for a blast with Russell Ingall. Did you get the chat on that?
He's actually a bit of a petrol head, you know. He's got a clubman race car, I think, and he actually goes and turns some laps on occasion on the quiet out at Mallala there.
I've taken him for a ride at Mallala.
Yeah, every year he goes to the Clipsal 500 in Adelaide, which is his hometown, and is a part of the paddock club there. He's a bit of a petrol head, so today was another good day for him. He's been before, but he loves it. Yeah.
Did you have a chat to him? Hello, Rusty.
I didn't. I thought you were talking to the one you were talking to.
I bet you're wondering how I said that without moving my lips.
But my colleague Lee Diffie did. Yes, he had a bit of a chat with him there with Russell Ingall at the end of the lap. Very impressed with the way the car braked in particular. He said it was quite exhilarating.
Did Stiffy give him a bit of a Q&A on just foreign policy and where we're at there?
Yeah, he was a little nervous, Lee, when he rang the office and said, "Oh, do you need any questions for news?" So no, he's good. Yeah. He's good. That happens sometimes though when the newsroom puts the acid on you.
Who's the heaviest profile dude that you've interviewed, apart from Bradley and Glenn and Steve?
I've interviewed the PM before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he say g'day, Rusty?
In radio days. Bob
what did he say to you?
I can't remember what it was in relation to now. It was back in the old newsroom days in radio. We're digressing here.
I know. You speaking of Bob Carr.
Yep. Terrific. People of New South Wales love Glenn Sigden. He's fantastic. Does a great deal for motor racing. And maybe, just maybe, one day we'll see it around the Homebush precinct there.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things I could say, but I won't. You're an idiot, Thruster.
Yes.
That's very impressive.
He's not bad.
Yeah.
You can do things like that on cue.
Not much good at anything else.
For
but that's
example,
okay.
Steve Horn, formerly of Tasman Motorsport in
who was a
in
guest
the
here at
US,
the track this weekend.
is a guest here this weekend. He used to have a guy called Adrian Fernandez driving for him. You do a reasonable Adrian, don't you?
The word around town is that apparently I do.
Go on.
Hello, Steve. How you doing? It's been a long time since I've seen you, man.
And that's what you should do next time you see him at breakfast.
He sounds remarkably like Max Wilson.
They are from the same suburb.
Yeah. It's all South America, whatever. We've also got very long races this weekend. 48 lappers on Sunday. It's a hot joint. It's going to be hard work for you blokes to see this athlete here sucking on his Gatorade.
This seems like it's longer than normal to us. The Sunday races, I think, are normally about the 35 lap mark, are they not?
They're about 10 or 12 laps longer or something
that's exactly
this year.
what I thought. Yeah.
How many laps are they?
48. Start drinking, buddy.
48.
Yes.
Better take another drink.
Yes.
Gee.
Up from 35.
I've got to say, thank God it's a month later.
Why
It's actually quite
why are they
cool up
longer
here at the moment compared to last
There's
year.
a little bit of a breeze through the place, which
But
is
it's
actually
48 laps.
48 laps, mate. Yeah.
Good to see you read your sub-reg.
I was just thinking to myself, the drivers are totally on top of the business. You know, they know every single aspect of this business inside out, like how long the race is, for example.
Well, my cool suit's only going to last 30 laps.
That's right. Your cool suit will be making heat after about halfway through.
48.
The last time I ran here, my cool suit never worked in the first race, whatever that was, and it was the worst experience in the universe when the thing's
48
actually
laps.
working.
That'd be about 140k.
That'd be
Yeah,
your
my calculations are right.
Yeah. Or, of course, it could have been Steve Wood telling you on your headset.
Yeah, it could have been that.
There are those new mandatory roof vents that the officials are making.
That's right,
yeah.
run. Well,
Making a huge
describe
difference.
Describe them for our
I've had to wear
audience.
a scarf. We've got so much turbulence inside the cockpit now. That,
You got to wear a scarf.
Oh yeah, because it's blowing up my neck. No, they don't make any difference at all.
You look like the old days of Johnny Goss, don't you?
I had to put a coat hanger in it out the side.
There's no stopping him now. He makes the pass on Glenn Seaton to take the race lead.
That's exactly right. I'll bend the bit of coat hanger in the scarf and point it out the window.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
After you, Brad. No, you first, Glenn.
You were born at the wrong time, Rusty. I don't think they make any difference. Have you?
I haven't noticed it yet.
I put my
You
hand
don't
up.
even know it's there, do you?
Well,
What happens if it rains? Can someone answer me?
You
that?
get wet.
You get wet.
You get soaked.
Right.
I had the first version at
turn
Eastern
it off.
Creek at the end of last year.
That was apparently quite efficient.
I had
because
a run
efficient. It was useless.
Was it?
Absolutely
the one
Did you
useless.
try it?
The
Yeah.
clamshell?
I had it in for the weekend.
The clamshell.
The clamshell.
I had a run in the HRT 3-seater car in
Yeah,
December
had
out
one
at
in.
Eastern Creek. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
The amount of air coming in there was amazing.
Neil had to
found
wear a
it useless.
scarf.
I had to wear a scarf.
I think this thing's hopeless. I put my hand up at the end of the straight and I could barely feel the air
The
coming in.
flaggies waved back to you?
No, but see, that's
Or
I was giving him the number.
the rest of the field
Bradley.
probably thought you were
But
surrendering.
that might be why you're down at 25th, mate. You've got to actually keep your hands on the wheel.
find
What's going on in front?
Listen, when you run
Hey, you
around,
shouldn't be waving to the girls
when
out there.
when you're running at that speed, you can do it with one hand. So, you know.
I'd like to thank my very dear and close friend Steve Ellery for coming along tonight. It's
I
been
know,
a
it's
pleasure to
been
have
great.
you here.
Oh, yeah, good on you.
Really looking forward to
Hey?
having you back on the show again next time, and maybe bring a toaster or a cappuccino maker for me.
Why
or something
not? I'll
nice
bring
like
you a
that.
coffee. That's
Yeah.
great.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Glenn. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Neil, yeah.
Focus on the V8 Supercar. Don't think about the
Absolutely.
Capri.
No.
V8 Supercar. V8 Supercar.
No.
Think about the Capri.
Think about the
Just
Capri.
drive like you're in the Capri. That'd be great.
You know,
And after the break, we're going to be catching up with a couple of Jasons, Bargwana and Brighton. We'll have more for you on the Panel Beaters live from Hidden Valley in Darwin. Back after this.
Hope you're enjoying the panel beaters. We are broadcasting live from Hidden Valley. We're at the top end in Darwin for round 6 of the V8 Supercar Championship Series. Neil Crompton, Greg Rust and Brad Jones at the circuit. And we're joined now from Ford Performance Racing by Jason Bright and from Orcon Ford Racing Team, Jason Bargwana. Please welcome them, lads. Come on, nice round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
How are you?
Thanks, fellas. Thanks. Very good.
How was day one? A 2-hour practice session today. How did it go for you, Jason?
Oh, it was a tough day for us, actually. I mean, everything went reasonably well during the session. We just didn't get a set of tyres on at the end there like everyone else did, and by the time we did, the oil was down, and it cost us pretty dearly as far as the timesheet goes, and we'll be in the slow group tomorrow for qualifying.
Now, what's going on with you? Frosty is ahead of the game after that tough accident in China. I think he's just outside the top 10 there, and you're about 16th or 17th?
16 or 17. Yeah, she's not as good as what we thought. We got one of the new Stone Brothers engines in the car, and
Have you got that or Frosty?
No, I actually got it, and it's pretty disappointing. It's we've obviously got some sort of problem there. She's down a bit at the end of the chute, so we're trying to work on that. We got the green tyres on and the oil, and that's the best we could do. But I think if it all goes well, tomorrow could be quite good for us.
Just actually explain a little bit more about that for our audience. Obviously, you have a customer relationship with them, but when something does go wrong, what happens? Do your blokes look after it? Does it got to go back to them? How does it work?
I yell at Larko, and he fixes it. So.
And of course, the Stone brothers say the warranty ran out at the door.
At the door. That's it. Here's the dyno sheet, boys. Go fix it yourself.
Yeah. Well, there's a problem. We'll get onto that on Wednesday.
We're obviously a customer from the engine point of view from Stone Brothers. We've been running a lower spec, if you like, their 2003 spec for the last 18 months, and fortunately we're now stepped in a position where we can get the current spec, but hasn't kind of worked out the way we expected it just at the moment. So
did you have to wrestle Frosty for that? And
it wasn't too hard because Frosty's car was off being fixed with a hole in the floor, so it was made an easy decision which car to put it in.
If you go up there and help him put it in?
Yeah.
If you want to scare him, just attack him with a grate, and he'll back off in a real hurry. Just if you're ever in a sort of heavy-duty negotiation with Frosty,
just wave a grate round.
I have never seen anything like the way that car looked when I had a look at it in.
It was like a hand grenade had gone off.
Did you go in and have a look at it?
No, I didn't get in to have a look at it.
Absolutely amazing when you went in and looked at it.
Yeah,
the pictures don't do it justice.
He is a very lucky boy.
Yeah.
Very lucky boy.
Yeah, I mean, when you sort of look at that sort of thing, and you're motor racing in the 70s where they used to lose drivers on every couple of weekends there'd be drivers dying. You look at our car there out of China and think, geez, that could have been a really bad situation because it's the sort of stuff you don't think of these days.
Well, I mean, literally a couple of centimetres either way, and it literally could have cut a leg off, or
it
and
took
worse.
one of the lap belts off, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah. The thing that surprised me when you looked under the car was the way in which the cage is constructed. As you all know, it's kind of crossed over under the floor, and it just went straight through one of those tubes, as though you just arrowed straight through some plaster.
Looked like you cut it with an oxy, really, didn't it?
I mean, that was
hot
amazing.
knife through butter. It was just amazing.
Yeah, incredible. So the fact that he was able to get away with that was nothing short of a miracle.
The numbers they were talking were around the $75,000 mark for the repair bill. What's been involved in the repair process?
No idea.
Lots of hard work.
Being a driver,
Bugs being a driver,
he couldn't give a flying, so he's like, oh, well,
left
him at the last race and it was a mess, and it's here this weekend.
You usually get a great reation from the floor when you say to the boys, what have you been doing since China?
Yeah.
You blokes,
been going out much?
What you don't tell them is, you've been out for golf and have a bit of fun. And
they all know now, though.
Yeah. So what did you blokes think of the whole China exercise? Did you enjoy it?
It surprised me. I think the facilities there, we all knew how good they were going to be, so that wasn't too much of a surprise. But the crowd certainly got into it. I was very surprised that we got 75,000 people there, and that they were so much into it.
I was surprised to see the race fans. They were all at the back of the grandstands, buying merchandise and programs and all the rest of it, and obviously all of us had reservations as to whether or not it would be embraced, and clearly it was.
I think only one person really thought there was going to be a crowd there, didn't they, which was Tony Cochrane.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise to everyone else to see so many people there. I mean, it was just amazing.
Deb was up in the grandstand for the races. She went out and sat in the top of the grandstand.
You have selling off Barguana t-shirts up there, did you? Hey, come get a cheap shirt.
Want to buy a watch?
But
they
a couple of Valvoline race suits.
Everything that happened on the circuit, that the entire grandstand just stood up and cheered and crowd, and it was a great crowd.
One of the things that fascinated me was when the boys went and did the stunts with the bikes.
Wasn't that interesting?
The crowd had never obviously seen anything like that before, and it just you could tell by the stunned silence and then the reaction that this was so foreign to them that it was a freaky thing.
They actually, on the Saturday, I think the stunt guys were on after our race, and the crowd was leaving, because one thing they do, you notice how quickly they clear out of the joint, like they're gone. Do. But they all came back, you idiot. They all came back and sat down to watch your bikes.
Now, we want to hear from you this evening on our program. Panelbeaters at bigpond.com. Send us an email. We're talking about China, of course, and the success of it, what you thought of it. If you're at home here watching the coverage and perhaps didn't get there, would you go to China next season? And something we should probably talk about while we've got the boys here is that an advance party has gone over and done a bit of a recce on the Middle East. There's talk of going to the Middle East in 2007. Tony Cochrane and this consortium, I guess, have just returned from that. The way they're talking, it was quite a successful mission. No one's really talking specifics about whether it'll be Bahrain or Qatar or the likes of in particular Dubai. I mean, is one that's crying out for a big motorsport event. What do you blokes think about adding another international event to the calendar? And do you like the thought of going to the Middle East?
Look, we've obviously proven we can do this, so why not? I mean, it was a great success, the China thing. And if we can go and do the same sort of thing in the Middle East, although I do think we have to be careful that there's a few teams that can probably afford to do these sorts of things and have spare cars available and that sort of thing because of the travel time involved and the work involved, that the smaller teams don't get swallowed up in the whole process.
Gibson Freight.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about it. I reckon what we do now is nearly enough. I think that China's a great event. It'll be very difficult to top that.
I was going to ask you from a team owner standpoint, just logistics. I mean, obviously Gibson Freight did a great job of getting all the gear over and back and all the rest of it, and it obviously went together better probably in that respect. But what people haven't seen is the behind-the-scenes chaos in the shop in order to be able to pack and manage it. And then when the cars came back, a relatively short turnaround before you then have to be on the road for a long drive away like this one to Darwin. Was that difficult to manage?
Oh, I think the whole thing's, and Jason probably sees it from two angles as well, but I find that the way the program is at the moment, you guys have barely got a week to turn everything around no matter what sort of weekend you've had, and the program at the moment is just too tight. It's very, very difficult, and you know, they're talking about another race in November, late in the year, if we're going to go and do this because that's the time of the year. We've taken away a race meeting at Winton. For us to do another overseas event, then we're going to lose another race meeting somewhere in Australia, probably Sydney. And
the Grand Prix?
Yeah, well, maybe the Grand Prix, but I think we're more likely to lose Eastern Creek.
If it did go ahead, which is the worst of two evils? I mean, in the sense that, you know, if we went to China, is it better to keep going while we're on the international league and go to the Middle East and do that at the same time, or is it better to come back again and then stage it later in the year? Because if we go in November, China is currently, you know, scheduled for a mid-year.
I'd be interested to see what you think. I think it'd be better to come back because the thing is, you've got to feed all your guys. Someone's got to pay all those costs. You've got to be able to repair your cars or do whatever you want to do and then get to the next race. It was hard enough going from New Zealand to Perth. I think you need to come back to Australia, regroup, and then head off to the next one if you're going to do it that way.
It's been an unusual season in that the cars have been out of the shop a lot of the time this year, haven't they? A massive amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, but around New Zealand, the cars were gone for 5-6 weeks.
And that makes it difficult for development, and you know, you have some fundamental issues with the way in which the car's set up, or some engineering issues you want to overcome. If the thing's not there, and you can't go and test, or you can't even walk out on the shop floor and say, oh, let's measure. Oh, hang on, not there. So, and I've had a few guys say to me that that's actually been a real challenge this year. That just, let alone trying to make speed, actually getting the cars there, making sure that everything's pointing in the right direction, and having the bits to supply to keep them on the road is actually quite a challenge.
Which makes it expensive for the teams. Like with New Zealand, all the guys hanging around for a few days working on the cars. And if we did, like you just alluded to, do both international races at the same time, you're going to have to do the same.
Bridie, we're coming up to the 6th round of the championship, so we're well into the season so far. Big challenge for you this year to change teams. You took Phil Keed, your engineer, with you. Give us a report card on how life is at FPR. You've changed from one brand to another. You've taken a key man with you, but it's a big task.
It is a big task, and we didn't underestimate it when we did it because it was going to be a big job. I mean, we weren't stepping into a team that was up the front at the time, and we knew that we had quite a bit of work to do. There's been a lot of changes aside just from us. I mean, we've got a new teammate there. We've got new engineer, new car, new team manager, new commercial director. It's been a pretty turbulent 6 months for FPR, and during all of that, it's pretty hard to go forward. But I think we've been in the top 10 every round this year, and we've had some reasonable pace at some of the rounds. But it's that last little bit, turning up to the track and understanding the car a bit better and making better decisions in practice that put you up the front for qualifying.
Structurally, lots of differences, as you know, from team to team, let alone from brand to brand. What's your impression of what might be then for the second half of the year? Do you feel like you're getting on top of the car? You've got a new car in the pipeline, have you not?
Yeah, we'll probably be running a new car around Queensland,
right.
Whether it's Queensland
which
or the
is
round
the next
after.
round.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same spec as the car Greg's running at the moment, and that car's coming along quite well.
Different in what way?
Well, the car that I'm running at the moment is basically the David Bernard car from the David Bernard car from.
Will you just give us the
2003
roll bar details, the roll centres, spring shocks of it.
It again?
So big changes in the cage.
The car that I'm running at the moment is was the first ever BA that FPR had, which I think would have been David Bernard's from 2003.
Right, yeah.
So it's been on the shelf for a couple of seasons. Brytech bought both the cars from last year and ended up in the 2003 model. But
so
I don't really think there's too much wrong with the car, and we probably struggled a little bit getting a lot of things done that we would like to get done because it's been such a busy year. We've finally got some changes for this weekend that we're pretty sure we've improved the car, but it's taken that long to get them done because the car's been away, because we're building a new car. You can't just pull that car off and dedicate the guys to making changes to this one, because we're pretty keen to get in the new car as well.
And it's been tough for both of you this year in some respects, different teams, but a similar circumstance in that the competition is very high level at the moment, and you probably expected to build off a strong year last year, Bargs, and it hasn't been a glorious year.
No, it hasn't, and we've actually gone faster at every circuit so far this year than we did last year. By now we would have had probably 4 top 10 starting positions. This year we're struggling to get in the top 15, and it's an indication that the game has just stepped up that level, and pole position hasn't really gone any further ahead, but there's more cars fighting for that pole position now, so it's just a tough game.
Panel beaters at bigpond.com. We would like to hear from you during the course of our program. We have Jason Bargwana and Jason Bright with us in the studio as we prepare for round 6. Got a bit of email that we should maybe have a bit of a quick look at. Hi guys, love the show. Just want to say that this particular person says they're quite annoyed about Marcus Ambrose not turning up for the PR gig. Marcus is the number 1 Ford driver. He should know by now that turning up for signings is part of the job. If he had a valid reason, fair enough. But basically, he thinks he should be there.
And you know what? That's absolutely right.
Signed, Mark Scaife.
That's because Scaife wanted his autograph.
Yeah. She's absolutely right. He should turn up, and he should be fine. But I just think $5,000's a bit hefty.
Here's one that's pretty amazing. It says here that it opens the batting with Brad Jones is right. Tell me the rest of it, Rusty. That's an amazing email.
Team Better Electrical shouldn't be charged more than smaller teams such as Brightech. Good luck to Steve Ellery and Craig Lowndes for the rest of the weekend. That's from Ben in Melbourne. So that must be in relation to your blue there before about the state of play with fines and the size of some of the fines. And
I just think that they're excessive at the moment.
We talked about this before, and we'd welcome your emails on it. Panelbeaters@bigpond.com. What do you think, guys? Is the current approach by the IPO to crack down hard and some of these fines, is it out of control? Is it too much?
I thought we decided a few years ago that fines were not really a fair item, and the points were something that hurt everybody the same amount, and then all of a sudden we seem to have gone back into
fines.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just not right. We should be fined the same amount of money they fine the guys in the development series, and if they really want to sting you hard, take some points off you.
It is a lot of dough for not turning up at a PR thing. The five large.
Hey guys, here's another one from Fiona in Adelaide. Maybe they should have a demerit points thing, which is exactly what Jason's talking about. So so that the naughty and regular offenders are punished more and get higher fines when they reoffend or something along those lines. So a few people are agreeing with Jason Bright there, and we'd like to hear from you as we prepare for round 6 of the championship series. You've got a bit of a quizzing look on your face. What's wrong?
I was reading that and you turned it off.
Yeah, he struggles with English, so that's what the quizzical look was. We've got another one here from David Patterson, who's actually one of your engineers, but I think it's a different David Patterson in Queensland. Open to the panel. What do we feel is the favourite support class for the Avesco meetings? Hard to ask you, Blakes, because when you've got your eyes on for your category, the last thing you see is any other category. But what's your favourite support category?
Oh, look, I'm a big fan of Formula Ford still. I think from a racing point of view, it's fantastic. These days, the Utes and the Porsches. And
Utes are pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty spectacular stuff, so really, we're probably the wrong people to ask.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
it's really the fans.
What you've got to keep in mind is, where most of the guys have come from.
Is enough being done for Formula Ford in that sense? I think it's a great category. I agree with you. I don't think it is either.
I think that the category's certainly proven itself as the category to provide a lot of the guys for V8 Supercars and guys that go overseas, and if you don't support it, you end up,
and it's getting
cutting off that bloodline.
It is, it really is, which is sad.
If you happen to be watching us in or around the Darwin region, or you'd like to jump on an aeroplane in the crook weather that's around Australia at the moment and fly to Darwin, we've actually got 5 tickets to give away here tonight. So if you want to come out to round 6 of the championship at Darwin this weekend and you fire us some sort of intelligent email, then we'll get somebody intelligent like Bradley to decode it, and we'll give away a pass. So
what are you looking for, Bradley?
I'm just reading. You keep on asking.
No, about what would be worthy of a prize, do you think, Brad? in your opinion, given that you're
A set up for a BJR Falcon.
Yeah. I reckon find me a second around here and I'll give you all 5 passes.
See whether you can guess Bradley's IQ, and I'll give the passes away. Here's a
give you
hint.
a clue. It's got 3 digits.
It's very similar to his shoe size.
What's his race number
Including decimal points.
Yeah.
We've got some more email here that's rocking in. Someone asking whether or not I'm likely to drive again. That's probably, I mean, I'll have a drive here and there, but it's unlikely that I'm going to be out there bumping into these blokes, not in this life, maybe next time. But they enjoy the show. Another one here where Gavin is having half a crack at me with a multi-million-dollar business. Are we going to get live-to-air explanations regarding decisions that race control make? In my opinion, they leave it, whoever they may be, leave it to Crompton to explain racecraft rules and regs without any actual judges, and therefore we're left with the conspiracy theory. They're paid to make the decisions, so let them explain it to us, not Crompton. He's paid to speak. He's paid to speak on the governing body's behalf.
Maybe you should be the IPO now.
Yeah, no. Well, there's a couple of issues there. One, when they're in the middle of a race, you won't get them to talk from race control because they're in the middle of a race. So when we talk about...
Gavo.
Yeah, Gavin, my friend. So when we talk about whatever's happening, we just pass on whatever's been passed on to us, or subsequent to the race meeting, we read what's sent to us from the IPO. So, but if you wanted to log on to cams.com.au, you can read those judgments for yourself from race control. But otherwise, I'm not quite sure what that was all about.
We welcome you, though.
But Gavin, feel free. Slag away. Slag away.
One here from Cuthbert. Please ask Bargs, what's happening at Larker Motorsport? I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit.
Plenty.
Who is the new owner or partner? Is that still happening? Is Mark looking for someone? Where's all that at?
Yeah, look, I think it was probably read the wrong way in terms of what Mark's trying to achieve there. He's certainly looking to find someone to invest in the team and bring some resources to the team that we can help.
Has he had any luck yet with that?
Yeah, and I believe he has. He hasn't made it a final decision yet. He's had a lot of inquiries, and
has he? Have they got a lot of money?
Well, I think that's the problem, though. I think there's been a lot of inquiries and a few blokes thinking they can buy the team at a right price and this sort of thing, but it's not exactly what Larko's looking for. From what I understand, he hasn't made the decision yet, but it's looking really promising. So,
Cuthbert continues here. One for Bradley. When will JB decide to retire?
When he's had enough. I think he's doing a great job, and I don't, JB's a pretty sensitive guy and he worries about all that sort of stuff. He'll stop when he's ready, and I think he's doing a good job. He doesn't need to even think about that at the moment.
Final one here from Cuthbert. What is Steve Horn doing in Darwin? Is he looking at buying a team? So the rumour mill's away already. We can answer that for you. Steve's actually quite a keen pilot and cruised up here and enjoyed the scenery, and he just basically
he
happened
did,
to be in town.
and it's on the QT, but he is the one that's looking to get into business with Lark.
Oh, here we go.
and he's
it's on the QT.
Big chance to rock into that.
G'day, boys. Quick question.
No, what he's really doing, I can tell you exactly what Steve's doing here. He loves flying planes, and there was a lunatic flying a Cessna from Sydney
Who might
to
that
Darwin.
be, Brad?
That'd be Neil Crompton. And because Steve's hooked into him, he decided to fly out here, have a bit of a look at the middle of Australia, which he's never done before. And they flew up together, and they're flying back next week. And
how was the Wally World tour?
The Wally World tour was actually
very
good. It was very good. I've never seen the middle of the country like that, and it was good. So on Monday,
he buzzed Larry Perkins in the chopper, nearly pushed him out of the sky.
Just fenced Larry back at Tyndall and came up. But no, it was very good. The weather was dirty in the early part of the week, so I've taken a couple of days off from the normal motor racing duties to see the country from a different angle.
Haven't seen Captain Sirius smiling this much.
Hey?
It was very good.
We're counting down to a break here. We'll do one more quick bit of email if we can. G'day, boys. Quick question. Is the international round financially worth it for the teams? Does it make the teams come out with a loss of money due to the rush of expenses, etc.? Are there actually any positives in the teams, or is it just for the V8 Supercar brand? That's from Mark. Righto, as a team owner?
Hey, well, ask him a couple of questions.
As far as I know, we're not getting anything.
Yeah, I don't think it's any... well, they don't tell you. I don't know about you, but I don't know yet. So I'm not sure that it's going to be any better than a normal round.
There you are.
One question here. Also, I know that we're going to go to a break in a moment, but and it's a point that we haven't covered off today. Your teammate Greg Ritter had a bit of a shunt because I saw the car limping back with some damage. He whacked the wall up at 8, I think, didn't he?
I'm actually not sure. I saw them repairing it, but I haven't actually had a chance to download what he did.
Good to see that you're totally on top of everything that's going on.
I'm worrying about my game at the moment.
Yeah, I know how it works. Boys, thank you very much for coming in. I know you're right in the middle of a busy race weekend. We always appreciate it when you drop by and say hi and have some fun with us. Thank you to Jason Bargwanna and Jason Bright. Good luck on the weekend. Have a great one, boys.
But I want to say something. You're talking about...
Sorry, we're off air now.
Old man's Capri.
Yeah.
We still on air?
Yeah, mate, we are.
Don't take no notice.
Take no notice of me. I'm only teasing you.
Thanks, Bradley. No, you're talking about Cito's old man's Capri, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, my old man's got one as well, NC Capri, and Cito and I are trying to talk our old mans into sharing cars with us at a long distance race at Wakefield later in the year, so that'll be a bit of fun.
That'll be good.
You're on a bit of a nostalgia trek at the moment too, because didn't you track down your original Formula V?
His missus did.
Yeah.
Have you restored it yet?
No, I'm in the process, yeah. Deb bought it for me for my birthday last year, so it needs a bit of work, but...
have you done anything to it since you got it?
Yeah, I actually gave it a run at the hill climb and realised why I don't really enjoy Formula V that much anymore. It would have been good in 1966.
Everyone ran uphill and you raced downhill, is that what happened?
It was a bit scary, but we're going to give it a bit of a birthday and get it out there. So.
We'll get a progress report from you later in the year on that. I suggest you maybe get that hands device on when you're driving. It stabilise your neck in case
going for the scarf look.
Yeah, Bradley's got one. He'll lend it to you. We're going to take a break on the panel beaters, and when we come back, we've got another special guest right after this. Welcome back to Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin for round 6 of the V8 Supercar Championship. You're watching the panel beaters live around Australia, indeed perhaps around the world on Big Pond, and an opportunity to plug the Big Pond coverage this weekend. We have done a couple of interesting interviews with Mark Winterbottom and Jamie Whincup. We've obviously got all the usual features, all the telemetry, Indian car information from the cars, the pictures, the live timing, and all the wonderful features on Big Pond. So make sure if you get a chance over the course of the weekend, if you've not yet seen some of the things that Big Pond has to offer in the V8 Supercar coverage, then I can thoroughly recommend it. Now, we welcome to the panel tonight a very special guest. Now, he's a busy man who wanders around in the international scene of motor racing. We remember him, but he probably doesn't remember us. I get you to cast your mind back to 1994. Ian Harrison, welcome to the program. And a young Bradley Jones and Neil Crompton were given a tour by yourself and Alan Gow of the Williams touring car and Formula One factories, and as I recall, he misbehaved and had to be dragged out of certain areas of the shop where he shouldn't have been, and so now's the chance to smack him on the head.
Yeah, he doesn't remember you, but he remembers me.
Welcome to the program, Ian Harrison from 888 Race Engineering. You're out from the UK this weekend.
That's right.
Roland's off on a junket somewhere in France or wherever he may be.
Exactly.
And you're back here having a look at the operations down here. You're involved with the program in the UK and the British Touring Car Championship. Great place to come down and have a look and see what's happening here at Darwin.
Yeah, it's the first time I've been here, so...
it's a wild place.
I've done Oran Park twice.
That's enough for anybody.
So I thought this would be quite good to come here, so it's great, yeah, it's very good.
You've been with 888 now since, what, 96 or thereabouts?
That's right, yeah.
So,
end of 96.
Yeah, and obviously it's been a great opportunity for you. You're involved in the company as a director, and things are looking good on both sides of the pond for you now.
Yeah, we started off in 96, as you say, and this thing started off in Australia, really, with me making a few inquiries a few years ago to see whether we could set something up here, and then Roland and Peter and various other people heard about what I was doing, got on the phone and said what's going on, so it all sort of developed from there, really, and it's all history. Everybody knows what's happened, so it's good to do two things, really, and especially something as big as this. And it is a big series. We're really pleased to be in it, to be honest.
Yeah, we tried to talk it up when we saw you in 1994, and you brushed us at the time, I think. Yeah. And you were all.
Well, I think you had about 6 cars on the grid, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm sure that you had 1 million people go through Williams that you have forced to do tours with. But I must tell you, when we came over there, and Neil, as he normally does, looked at $1,000,000. He had on the iron pants and the nice shirt, and we happened to be at Alan Gow's place, and I had a briefcase which I put down on the grass that had just had the sprinkler going on it, and so Neil's sitting in the back, all looking at $1,000,000, and I picked my briefcase up, sat it on his knees, and said, "Can you put that on the other side of the car?" And as he did, a lump of mud went onto his pants. He's like, "Ah, God, look what you've done to me!" And I said, "What? You don't think Frank Williams will give you a drive this year because you got mud in your pants?" Wanker.
I don't think the mud on the pants would have been a problem.
Exactly.
It was probably the least of the dramas. What are your impressions of the series here? I mean, obviously you guys have got confidence in it. You've set up a business here. You've made an investment in the category. We think, and we have thought for quite some time, that in a world where costs are difficult and technology can run out of control, we've got a pretty good series that offers quite a lot in terms of the balance of cost, entertainment, and technology.
Yeah, there is no doubt that it's the sort of series that we want to be involved with because it's as good as it is. No question about that. If it was rubbish, we wouldn't be here. In terms of the costs, well, that's something that I've always got to be kept an eye on, really. Costs can spiral out of control very easily, especially with technology-driven costs. So it's quite easy for the championship, which is Australian-based. It's quite easy to go off and do one foreign race, for example, and then the next thing you know, you're going to do 6, and the next thing you know, you're doing 25 rounds a year or whatever. And the technology has to keep up with it, and the amount of spares you have to have, you know this better than anybody. Amount of spares and spare cars that you need and all the rest of it causes the cost to spiral out of control. So it's something you've got to keep an eye on. And I think, in general here, people understand that costs have to be kept under control, and I think it's an evolving issue.
Well, you saw the rise and subsequent fall the first time. Well, it wasn't really the first time, but that big boom period of the British Touring Car Championship. And I can remember the figures that you told us at the time back in the mid-90s with the Renault touring car team. They were astronomical. I mean, it was a monumental amount of money that you
£7 million.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. And ultimately the bubble burst, and it's only just beginning to claw back some of the ground. We're coming up to nearly 10 years later, and that's something we can't afford to do here.
Absolutely, you really do not want to be going through that. It's difficult to bring it back, as it's proven in the UK. You know, our TV numbers are great, and the amount of people that come along and spectate is great, and it's improving. But you know, we've got 15 cars on the grid, and it's a struggle to get 15.
It's not as good as it was in boom times, though, was it? You're not getting as many people along, are you, or has it got back up to that?
It's a bit of a myth, really. We used to talk about 10 manufacturers, but there was only 20 cars.
Oh no, I'm talking about the crowd size.
Crowd size, yeah. On average, I think you'd probably get 25,000, something like that. The odd race you'd get 40,000, and at the moment we're averaging about 18, something like this.
Now, being the hard-hitting journalist that I am in this night job,
I've
I'm forced to ask a tough question sometimes, and one that's very apparent to me is, if it was your idea to come out here and race, how come Roland got the gig?
Well,
because I've not yet met someone from England that wouldn't like to live out here.
And it's a big hello to all of our English friends tonight.
How do you endear yourself to the English public?
Well, it's a tough question, but it had to be asked.
No, it's a tough question, but it's a very easy answer. No, I'm quite happy living in England, and I've got no aspirations to live in Australia. It's a great place to come and visit. It's a nice place to do business, but that's fine as far as I'm concerned. My core business is in the UK, and we're the big motorsport partner for Vauxhall, basically, and you don't have Vauxhall here, so that's really where my business lies.
Is Kevin Whale? He's in the UK now.
No, he's in China.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was. Oh, geez, I'm not keeping up.
He left about 3 weeks ago. Or 4 weeks ago.
I wasn't too far from being on the pace.
So we've had Kevin over there for 4 years, he's been great. He's been very supportive. But
Neil and I used to pest him to death when we were both factory Oldham drivers, didn't we? Come on, Kev, give us a break.
Yeah. It's got to be worth another 0 at least.
I don't remember the Williams tour, but I do remember him mentioning that.
Yeah, that's right. There were a couple of pests in Australia that were ruining the budget.
Yeah, steer clear of Jones and Crompton.
You talk about the UK operations, leads me to some emails that we often get generally about motor racing teams that have connections internationally. Is there much crossover between Triple Eight here in Australia and the UK, and how much does each arm help the other?
At the start, when everything was a bit of a bun fight down here when we started up, we did quite a lot of work over the winter on last year's car, which was something new for us as well. We'd never done a V8 before, or any parts of a V8 before.
Because we have to say it's a bit of a monster compared to the cars that you deal with.
Yeah, no, it's totally different.
Live rear axle, big cast iron V8,
rear-wheel drive.
Rear-wheel drive, heavy.
Totally different. So it was more a case of trying to shore up the dam, really, to give a bit of help over here. But since then, the drawing office in Brisbane does all the drawing and whatnot. But we have an interaction between the technical director, Ludovic, who's also technical director in the UK, and we do the aero. We're involved massively with the aero program for Ford in the UK. We get involved with that.
Ludo's name has come up. We've seen him here at various different rounds, but our viewers and listeners may not have heard much about him or his experience or background. He's quite a cluey cat by the sounds of it.
Yeah, he's and he'll tell you that. Yeah,
he is an engineer.
He is, yeah, absolutely. No, he's a guy that I've known for a long time, and he's been with us since I think about '98 in the UK.
But he was involved with Malik with the Nissan, wasn't he? Was he involved with them and
he engineered
the Audi in the DTM
and Peugeot in DTM, and he engineered ILO in the DTM with Audi. So he's been around the houses quite a few times in terms of touring cars.
Yeah.
So it was quite natural for him to want to get involved with this, and he has.
That's an interesting question, though, because sometimes from a purist engineer's standpoint, they look at a car like this and they gasp. If you've been involved in something as at a high level, DTM or Formula One, Champ Car or whatever, they kind of look at these cars and frown. But did Ludo find that it was a challenge to get one of these cars working? And I mean, even though they are in many people's eyes a blunt instrument?
No, I think it's two questions really, or two statements. The first thing is DTM and Formula One you can sort of shovel into the same bucket, to be honest, because it is high tech and carbon fibre everything and lots of money.
Carbon fibre toolbox.
Yeah. But all the rest of it, touring car, super touring or BTCC or this is along the same sort of lines. It's modifying what you've got, but keeping the same basic chassis and what have you. So I don't think it was it was different.
Right.
There is no doubt about that. It's a totally different car. And for sure, the results last year, I think, sort of reflected that. Everybody was sitting around going, blimey, what's this? It's different. And some of the logic that you put into what you could call regular touring cars, if you like, doesn't work.
No, we
found that out.
Yeah, we've all found that out at various stages, and all the theories, all the engineering theory in the world doesn't help these cars sometimes. They've got quite a unique personality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on a control tyre that's slippery and
of course these blokes have been doing it for years, so they see us turn up and go,
You're doing all right
the next
now,
12 months is going to be
Bradley
funny.
would never do that. Bradley would never smirk like that. He's got a lot of respect for all of his fellow competitors.
Absolutely. What about the World Touring Car Championship? Is that something that you think Triple Eight will jump into eventually?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we'd like to get involved with on the UK side of things. The problem you've got at the moment is there's so few manufacturers around in the world these days.
Do you think it's going to survive? Because it's, the racing, I don't know what it's like, but from what I read, it's not sensational. I mean, they're juggling around with weight and stuff already, aren't they?
They are, because I think the biggest problem they've got is that they race on all the wrong tracks. I mean, frankly, with a BTC car or an FIA WTC car, if you're racing at Barcelona, you can get the kettle on and brew up a cup of tea going down the front straight. You've got plenty of time. Yeah. It's the sort of circuits that they race on that the V8s would be great on, to be honest, because they've got the speed and the power
to do it. Yeah.
But a lot of the circuits that WTC are going to don't lend themselves to great racing in those sort of cars, in the 2-litre cars.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? You look at that stuff and that wouldn't be hard to fix, but the series will go...
It's difficult because the manufacturers that are around are involved with it, but you can see, and again, it's something they've got to be very careful of, you can see an escalating cost problem, because one thing they don't have is very good TV at the moment. It has to be said. There's not many people watch it, frankly. And they've got to be careful of that.
A couple of questions while we've got you here, Ian, before you go back to work. But we've got an email here from Jason.
Back to England.
No, we're not going to send you back that quickly.
Oh, that's all right.
Jason asking whether or not it would be feasible for V8 Supercar to run around in the UK, which I probably know the answer to, but Jason wants to ask you the question. So.
Oh yeah, it's not a problem. We've got some tracks that would lend themselves fantastically to this. Donington on the short track.
It'd be great.
Brands Hatch Grand Prix.
Donington would be fantastic.
No, it would be great. Yeah. It really would.
That World Touring Car Championship we went to
the same year.
I couldn't believe it.
How few people were there.
Well, but going down through those
through
curves,
the craners,
and then remembering Senna in the wet through there.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, and a V8 around that circuit would just be the living end.
It would be fantastic. So there's plenty of tracks to do it on. Not a problem.
But it in many ways doesn't make any commercial sense, and an old mate of ours, Alan Gow, would think it's a ridiculous idea, and he wouldn't want to know about it because there's no rear-wheel drive V8 platform in the UK. But one of the things that's interesting about our series is that it's probably a little bit like NASCAR in the sense that it doesn't necessarily have to reflect what's being driven on the road. It's just it is an entertaining, close-fought motor racing series in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a great believer that what the manufacturers are trying to do is promote their brand. And I'm not sure, I can't really speak for the spectators here, but certainly in the UK, I believe they don't really care whether it's front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, one-wheel drive, or side-wheel drive.
So long
as
it's good motorsport.
As long as all the wing mirrors are off by turn 1.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of action, that's what they want. And if it's got Ford or whatever written on it,
NASCAR's similar, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
and have a look at it. I mean, you know, a couple of the shining examples in global motorsport at the moment are NASCAR and Australian V8 Supercar. And it's no surprise that the costs are reasonably controlled. We know there's things that could be fixed, but and their first priority fundamentally is entertainment, not technology. And we've seen BTCC self-implode. We know there's difficulties with Formula 1, and because of your experience in Formula 1, while we've got you on the show, I'd like to fire a couple of questions at you about what's going on at the moment.
I'm a bit out of date.
Oh, dear. Oh, yeah, well, I know.
But I do keep my ear to the ground.
But you've got your mates.
I'm
sure you've got your mates up there who are still deeply involved in the whole thing. What a disaster. I mean, that whole business at Indy a couple of weeks ago was just embarrassing in the extreme for the category, but it really has ramifications across all motorsport, doesn't it? I mean, it's just a terrible thing.
I mean, you can't dress it up anything more than being an absolute disaster, PR disaster. I don't quite know all the ins and outs of it, and there was an FIA meeting on, a World Council meeting on Wednesday, I believe, in Paris, and I haven't really read the outcome.
They've been found guilty, and a suspended sentence. Max is going to hand down the penalty in September.
14th of September is when the penalties will be handed out. They've been found guilty on 2 of the 5 charges involving all 7 teams that were summoned to the World Council meeting on Wednesday night Australian time. And so now Max has got a stick poised over their heads about here, which will stay there until September, which coincidentally just happens to be 2 weeks before the FIA election, so it minimises the amount of time that there can be damage done.
And I think everyone except BAR has appealed.
Red Bull haven't appealed.
Oh, haven't
I need to look at the details. But
obviously BAR have already got something hanging over them anyway.
But I don't think that affects them immediately, though, does it?
I don't know whether
headline today.
I don't know whether there's some kind of agenda here. I suspect there is.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't understand why they just didn't race. Why they didn't let them use a different tyre or put in a chicane. I just. The fans are so important. You've got to race. You can't have them all turn up.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that's why there must be some other agenda that perhaps we're not privy to.
I think that's right.
And I think there's some kind of long-term. If you look at the short-term fix, it's put a chicane in and let everybody buy a Ferrari race because they'd have said no, we're not doing it. Okay, so everybody races except them. The long-term fix is to drive down the costs of Formula 1 because it's too expensive, and none of the teams can agree on the right way of doing that.
No.
Now, if you've got a big the sort of Damocles hanging over your head, you tend to sort of go along with what the governing body might want to propose.
Which is certainly happening now.
So that could be like that.
How long did you have a senior position there at Williams? You were team manager at one point,
I was team manager for 3 years.
On the Formula 1 team?
On Formula 1, and then I went off to do the touring cars.
Did you enjoy the time in Formula 1? You had you had us there, but you had Damon driving, had Nigel driving at one point. Did you have Ricciardo there as well?
Yeah, and Senna and Coulthard and all the rest of them. Yeah, that was great.
Give us a little insight into that.
The racing was fantastic, and the cars were great. I mean, they think they're
that was in the early 90s, so you had the whole
92,
all the techno.
Yeah, absolutely, full active ride and ABS and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And they think the cars are technical now, which I'm sure they are, but they seem to me to be more aero-driven these days than mechanically driven as they were then.
What about the personalities?
Yeah,
the personalities of the drivers. I mean, that always and
you've brought a smile to your face straight away.
We all have a bit of it. Well, certainly those that are hardcore motorsport fans, just like they do with the drivers in V8 Supercars, they surmise what the different personalities are like in Formula 1. How did you find that? I mean, I'm sure there's stuff you can't say, but Senna, what can you say about him?
Well, it was a bit unfortunate really because we only got to know him for 3 races, and that was a disaster to be honest. But he was starting to sort of chill out a little bit and relax and realise that we were there for him, and there was no hidden agenda, and we just wanted him to do well. And I think the fact that he put it on pole for every race that he competed in was great, and the atmosphere within the team was starting to really come together, and we'd have won the championship. We'd have beaten Michael Schumacher that year. I mean, the car wasn't right at the start of the year.
No, it was a very ordinary car early on, wasn't it?
We had a problem with the front end, which we fixed. And if Michael had been driving and Ayrton had been driving in that last race in Adelaide.
Well, you were there that year,
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah, oh, God, yeah.
What did you think of what happened up there at turn 4?
Well, he put him off.
It was pretty wild, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
We forget these things; they end up being misty memories. But that was a pretty wild day.
Drove him off the road.
And what were you going to say if Ayrton had been in the car?
Well, then he might not have been quite so readily prepared to drive him off the road.
That's interesting. I think you're probably right, because Senna gave as good as he got, didn't he?
Yeah.
And what did you think about Damon Hill?
Yeah, he was great. I mean, this guy was in a really difficult position. I mean, put yourself in his shoes. You know, he's there as number 2. He was number 2 to Alan Prost the year before. Oh, we forgot about him, didn't we?
Yeah, we forgot about him.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, you know, he's thrust into the picking the team up from the absolute bottom. You know, I mean, everybody was in a
it was
pretty
a terrible
bad
thing.
state.
Yeah, I mean, not just within the team, no doubt, but all around the world. It had a huge impact.
Yeah, it did. And you know, to give Damon his credit, and David Coulthard, to be honest, you know, they picked the team up and dragged us along, and we all got our act together in the end, and off we went.
When we came over there, and you know, you remember that visit so well.
I do,
but,
like it was yesterday.
At that time,
where's that money I lent you?
Yeah, at the time,
I thought it was the other way.
At the time, Nigel had just come back from the States, because in fact I'd been in the States and come across the pond, and you just had him in for those last few races. He'd done some testing, and in fact I think there was a big meeting there that day. They all marched in.
He must have been very impressive, because every round that I think Nigel turned up to, Patrick didn't go to, didn't he?
Well, there was things went badly in Spain, as I recall. He performed poorly at Barcelona, but he ended up finishing quite strongly in Adelaide, didn't he? He was on pole.
Yeah, no, he did. The first one he did was in Magny-Cours.
Was it? Yeah.
And he struggled a bit with the car. And then the next one he did was Jerez. And again, it wasn't superb. And then we went to Suzuka. And there was a bit of a gap between those 2 races, and we went to Suzuka, and he drove really well in the wet.
Because he'd come out of the Indy car, which was a very significantly different car.
Totally different. And he drove really well at Suzuka, and had a right old battle. I think he finished 5th in the wet, because it was a 2-part race. And then he came to Adelaide.
He stuck it on pole there.
And he did. And the guy just drove really well, and Berger made a mistake coming onto the Brabham Straight, and Nigel snuck through and just won the race. And you know, the guy was in tears afterwards, and it was great.
I mean, hard to put a bloke like you on the spot with all this, but I mean, who was through that period your favourite personality, or the driver that you had the most time and respect for as a person and a driver, and who was on the other side of that scale? Without putting you too.
I can't really. No, I just I bundle drivers all into the same bucket.
They're all,
well, that's nice to know.
It's all right. Yeah. There's a reason why we haven't visited you since 1994.
Yeah, exactly. What about Mansell? I mean, he had such a shocking reputation as a moaner, but he obviously was, you know, I mean,
big gonads.
Yeah. If you said Prost, he'd be the tester. You know, he was the one that worked really hard at it. You know, professor, whatever they called him.
True.
But Senna was committed. He just was committed to the game. He trained hard. He raced hard. All he focused on was winning. Nigel, you know, stub his toe and he'd need a sling. Have 75 people following him around, but a line in the car. You know, he just
when he
was
drove
braver.
the car. When he drove the car and you clicked the stopwatch, you knew that was as fast as that car could go.
Yeah.
Nobody could drive it any quicker. He was brilliant in the car. Superb.
So why do you think? How come he didn't get a gig the following year? Was it personalities, or was he just?
You'll have to go and ask Frank.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly don't know. I wasn't involved with that, thank goodness. But
so would that have been a tough decision for them?
Yeah, I think so. It's you don't give up the world champion for whatever reason, unless it's a really good reason. And I don't know whether it was just a philosophical thing about or an issue about money or.
I tried to ask Sir Frank
whatever.
a few of those questions earlier in the year, and he ducks them pretty well. We won't say much about it. Ian, thanks very much for dropping in.
You're very welcome.
A pleasure to talk to you tonight, not only about how things are going at 888, but also a little bit of your past.
It's been very interesting.
Please feel free to come and see us again another 11 years from now, and we'll be very happy to give you our time.
No, Frank can give me that money.
Ian Harrison, thank you. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy Australia and Darwin, and hope to have the pleasure of your company again in Australia very soon. Ian Harrison from 888 Race Engineering. Thank you.
Thanks.
And we shall take a break on the panel beaters, and we'll be back to talk more motor racing right after this.
Hello and welcome back to the Panel Beaters. I'm Brad Jones here with Greg Russ and Neil Crompton, and we've been talking all things motorsport this evening.
Cue Brad.
That was one of the best intros that you've ever done, Bradley.
You don't have to be so happy with
yourself.
Okay, what are we doing now?
Where are we going?
We've got a lot of email.
Well, we've got a lot of email, so I think we'll talk a little email and...
let's look at the email. How many emails can one have in one sentence?
We've had a great show far this evening. Jason Bright joined us. Now, Neil, you're what does it say? You're very neutral in what you say, but is there an underlying bias? So that's a bit hard. James from Sydney, what do you think? Do you have a favoured manufacturer? I'm going to answer this before Crompo even does.
Yes,
that is fair dinkum out of line. That is not true. I'm sorry, James.
Really?
That is absolutely untrue.
He's got a favourite driver.
I'm sure he does, but he doesn't have a bias towards a particular manufacturer.
In fact, he goes out of his way.
James, I didn't mean to come across hard there.
He did.
What's his question?
Yeah, well,
you've gotten into him a bit there.
Yeah, but the insinuation I thought from the email, I may have read it wrong.
Where
James.
is it? What number is it?
Yeah.
We'll have to bring it back up again. But
while these two are rabbiting on, let me just tell you that the thing with Neil is he tries very hard.
But is there any underlying bias?
Tries very hard to play it with a straight bat, and I think he does a great job of it.
So
in fact, if you spend a lot of time with him, as I do, you find it becomes punishing after a while. He plays everything with a straight bat.
Yeah, but not you or our friendship any longer, you bozo.
Hi guys.
Here we go.
Love the show. Just wondering if Larcom could sell 50% of Larcom Motorsport to some shareholders, as I am a Queenslander and would love a small share in his team. Feel that some others would be in the same boat. It's an interesting proposition.
Well, if you've got enough money, hey, but why not buy into a team in Albury, I say. We'd welcome you with open arms down there.
Yeah,
so
and hopefully you'll be able to provide enough money to be able to have the guys wear clean shirts instead of bringing stains all over this program. Can we go back to James from Sydney?
Sure.
Neil, you're very neutral in what you say.
He doesn't take anything personally
underlying
either.
bias? What do you think? Do you have a favoured manufacturer driver team?
I was probably a bit hard on James.
You're being a bit hard on him, but he wasn't having a go at anybody.
Yeah, I thought he meant.
Mate, stay with
your
old Uncle Brad and your old Uncle Neil. Thrust is an angry young man. This is what happens when you get engaged. Pressures come on in your life. Suddenly there's the whole marriage
James,
thing.
I apologise wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think you should apologise to James. Very unfair. No, I don't particularly. I hate them all.
Yeah, many a true word spoken in jest.
That's right, and that's not far from the truth.
Hi guys, talking of Formula Ford, what do you think of the changes next year? New motor and wings. Regards, Phil. What do you think, Bradley?
Well, big changes really.
Rock through these emails because we've got lots of customers.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Formula Ford needs a lift. Could do with a lot of more exposure. I think it needs television more than it needs wings and different engines.
Yeah,
but let's see
I
what
would
happens.
agree with that wholeheartedly.
Next one comes from Mark. Asking our opinions about the possibility of a second tyre company, given the fiasco in America a couple of weeks ago. Mark, I can tell you, so long as... I was going to say something rude then. So long as we've all just got two nostrils, there's no chance of there being a second tyre manufacturer in V8 Supercar. We lived through that era. It was a disaster. Tyre wars, as you've seen, graphically in the last couple of weeks, are massively unproductive for the sport. They cost a lot of money and they serve very few people.
The last thing we need is a tyre war.
Not in this current era of Australian motorsport.
There has been some chat though, and we brought this up on RPM at Eastern Creek about maybe consideration for a change to the current compound of Dunlop control tyre, or maybe the option of, say, like Champ Car do, having a soft.
What
do you think of that?
Well, I'm not sure. They're
Very
going to change the
logistically.
compound. Yeah, that would make it quite tough. I love the concept, but I'm not sure how it will work.
Yeah, one of the problems, if you actually go to the Dunlop garage here and see how many tyres, as you know, Thruster, that are being brought to the meeting, they've got to be serviced, just the variation of dry, wet, and the gear they've got to freight around to do all that. If you had another one again, you've got to have enough to deal with the whole field. There's a lot of tyres.
Wouldn't you just bring half as many of each one?
Well, they don't seem to do that when they do these things.
That's
they
true,
always have to bring... I mean, you need to talk to a tyre engineer. Don't forget, freebie passes. If you are listening or watching in the Darwin area and you'd like to come to the race meeting this weekend, fire us in an email. We're not going to get through them all tonight as usual, but our team of producers and research staff will go through the emails after the show including these two clowns here, and we'll look through the emails, of which we've got tons here, and we'll happily send you. Well, actually, we won't be sending you these tickets.
You've
what
got
we
to
shall
be
be doing. No, they're going to be left at the credentials gate, and there's actually details for it here somewhere, which I'll dig up while you say something intelligent, Rusty.
What I'll say is, hi fellas, Brad, what's it like when you're driving a V8 as hard as you can and you're finishing 18th or 19th? You know you're driving as fast as you can and can't get the results, and the media are hounding you. What is that like?
I haven't got up to 18th or 19th recently, no.
He wishes he was 18th or 19th.
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating, but it just shows you how tough the category is. What?
No, keep going, but we've got 9 minutes left.
Yeah, okay. It's very frustrating, especially when you come from a category where you used to win a lot, and everyone finds it tough. The thing about our sport is there wouldn't be one bloke in there that isn't capable, well, in the top 20 anyway, that isn't capable of winning the race in the right package. So it's frustrating.
And we have a little shot at you occasionally, but we know how important racing and racing success is to you and all of the guys. And if you've been able to get yourself in a position in this sport where you can be in this paddock and drive one of the cars, you've done a lot of work already. So they're all fiercely competitive guys, and unfortunately it's a dreadful cliche, but there can only be one bloke who ultimately ends up being the winner. Going back to that point, gate number 4, credentials gate, the winners can get the passes there, and we'll let you know.
Fellas, my wife loves you all and is a big fan. It was her birthday on
Really?
the 28th, so she would be tickled pink if you could all wave to the camera and say happy
birthday, Lisa.
Hi, happy birthday, Lisa. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. We don't sing very well.
There's only one of us singing.
Yeah, well, you should be. We're your team or what? It's nice that she's enjoying the program. Thank
One
you,
here
Lisa.
from Mark. With all the focus being on Australia going overseas, do you think there is a racing format or league which doesn't already visit Australia, which could be successful, an event successful? Well, what do you think of A1? A1 Grand Prix?
No, I don't know.
hope.
It's got no hope. And sports cars, no. The only thing that might work here would be NASCAR. And anything else, I mean, we're a very fickle country, and we like close, exciting racing. Yeah.
Mark from Churnside Park in Victoria.
I'm not going there. Please move along.
Ooh, that took some oxygen out of the room. He works for Etheridge Ford in Ringwood. He says, go Ford. He needs the cars to come back to Winton because the Victorians got to wait till round 9 before you get your first look at the cars. That's probably a valid point. Thanks for watching and listening, Mark. Now, here's another one. This one generated a little bit of interest, obviously. Hi, guys. The drive-through, was that enough for Mark Scaife at China after taking out Russell Ingall, who was the race leader at the time? I don't know whether he actually was, but anyway, might have been because my memory is getting foggy as I get older. Taking into consideration the harshness of some of the points deductions in previous penalties, are we seeing consistency have a great weekend? That's from Mark in Newcastle. Well, I mean... sometimes
took Scaife out of the race, though, didn't it? Which is what the intention is.
Yeah, made both there. I mean, that was an interesting one. It hasn't been widely reported, but Mark knew that he'd done the wrong thing straight away.
He's actually been and apologised to him too,
he marched straight in after the race. He personally apologised to Russell. He personally apologised to both Jim and Ross Stone and said it was my mistake. It was a terrible mistake. I fully thought that Russell was going to the pit lane. I had no idea he was turning left, and therefore, of course, it foreshortened his braking distance, and he made a blue. The problem with those, we've all been recipients of this with the, sorry mate, I didn't mean to do it. For the bloke who cops it, in this case Russell, it's sort of it takes you out of being competitive. Yeah. But there are occasionally incidents that happen, and I do genuinely believe this is one of them, where you've got to go, well, it happens.
And I think if Mark had got back up into a top 3 position,
they would have hit him harder.
They would have penalised him again.
I think that the $5,000 fine is okay. This is a sport that needs the public, and if people can't be bothered to show up for the public, fine them. That's from Brad.
We're running out of time, but one of the questions... Sorry, mate.
Oh, I'm just saying, I've got no problem with fining them. I just think $5,000 is a lot of money.
We covered that off. Running out of time, 3.5 minutes left. Obviously, we wanted to talk about Formula 1 tonight because there's been so much to talk about, and we've got another question from another Mark saying, have we heard anything? Well, we have heard something, and that was the whole business of Wednesday night. The World Council met in Paris. 7 of the teams were found guilty on 2 of the 5 charges that were laid against them by the FIA. The penalties will be suspended to a special hearing of the World Council in September on the 14th, which makes for a very interesting scenario now. going forward into the French Grand Prix this weekend, which we'll have live coverage on 10.
And one thing we haven't spoken about, which I would have loved to, was MotoGP and Max Biaggi having coming together with Melandri in practice. Rusty, you call that. Amazing, isn't it? Really?
It was out of control too, because his uncle Valero fired up in the paddock when the qualifying session was over and grabbed Melandri by the throat and scratched him. So they took his hard card and said, "See ya."
And he got fined $5,000 for that.
Yeah, he got fined $5,000 for the incident in question.
Which he should have.
Absolutely.
Andrew from Perth asks, "Love the show." That's not asking, that's stating. But then asks, "Has anyone heard what's going on with Larry Perkins, and does he have a new sponsor? Has he had talks with anyone?" I spoke to LP today, and no, at this stage he doesn't have a sponsor, but he's supplying 40% of the engines to the Holden side of the field these days, so he's gradually been boosting his numbers. He's got 8 cars now or something.
And he flew up here in a chopper.
He did fly up here in
That's
a chopper.
That's a real wind back of the clock when you think about it too. You know, back in the early 90s, I guess, he was supplying a fair few. He hasn't done that for a while.
I don't think you need to be Einstein to work out I'm not Larry's biggest fan, but he has done a good job with those engines. Those cars of his are seriously strong in a straight line.
I know you two do have a bit of friction, and in all seriousness, we've raced against Larry, but he's one of the last of the Mohicans. This is a guy who can design a car, build a car, do an engine, calibrate suspension, and Stephen Richards is a genuine championship contender, and he's at the sharp end. And I know that, notwithstanding the blue that you two have had from time to time about various things, but you've got to admire, if you just put that aside,
absolutely.
You've got to admire Larry's achievements in the sport.
And have a look at the money they must be spending at Stones and at Holden Racing Motorsport or whatever it's called this week to get those things going.
I saw Tom Walkinshaw here today.
Yeah, and for Larry to be able to do what he does with those cars of his, it's an amazing job, and he deserves some credit for that.
I'll just quickly wrap the top 10. I know we're coming down to the finish here. Todd Kelly, fastest today, so continuing that excellent form that he had in China. Fastest for the Holden Racing team with a 1 minute 9.59, and bear in mind too that Todd has been a former round winner here. Paul Morris, second quickest today, and both the Morris-built cars, if you consider Craig Baird as well, were inside the top 10. Stephen Richards, who we've just mentioned, third fastest. Craig Lowndes, best of the Ford drivers today for Team Better Electrical, which is part of the reason why Ian Harrison, one of our guests tonight, was smiling pretty brightly. He was fourth fastest. Craig, Team Dynamic, good job by Simon Wills. Russell Ingle.
Their car looked good over the back. I went over the back of the circuit and it looked very good.
So good effort by Simon Wills. Russell Ingle, sixth. Mark Scaife, seventh fastest. Paul Radisich, eighth. John Bow, ninth. That's a good effort for Team VOC. And rounding out the 10, as I mentioned, Craig Baird. Mark Winterbottom, who's back with that repaired car, 11th.
Thank you very much for all your emails tonight. We'll get back in touch for anybody that was watching or listening in the Darwin area. We've got 5 tickets. Sorry, Bradley, we're running out of time to give away, and they'll be available from the credentials gate number 4. We've had a great show tonight, gentlemen. We had some very interesting guests, lots of fun, lots of information. A couple of other little bits of news in the sport. A new engineer this weekend for Mark Winterbottom. Greg Wheeler, who was with Dick Johnson Racing, is with Orcon Racing now. And your not old man, that's the wrong description, but he was an engineer in your business. Phil Curtis is no longer with Gary Rogers Motorsport. He hasn't bobbed up anywhere yet. So
they've had a tough start to the weekend.
They have had a tough start to the weekend.
Aren't you a little curious what I was going to say?
Go for it, Bradley. But you've got 1 minute and 19 seconds to say it.
It's
less, in fact.
Something of interest that's happened in the last 2 races. I believe that the 2 HRT cars have finally got the measure of the Stone Brothers cars in straight line speed. I think that
bring on round 6.
The 2 HRT cars definitely are the strongest cars in a straight line at the moment. They've obviously been doing a lot of work, and it'll be interesting to see what the Stones come back with.
That's what we want to see. Good battle on track, lots of variety.
I went to the drivers' briefing just before the show started, and it was the shortest, briefest, most boring drivers' briefing I've seen in a long time. But I sat next a brief drivers' briefing. But I sat next to Mark Scaife, who was anything but happy. So he wasn't a happy camper tonight. No, he wasn't thrilled. He was arrowing out of the circuit. Speaking of arrowing out of the circuit, that's exactly what we're going to do now. Thank you to our massive production team here at Big Pond, including Stephen Wood, who's winding us up so that we finish on time. Thank you, as always, Bradley D. Jones.
Thank you, Neil.
You did a great job of bringing us out of that break, and boy, all that work in front of the mirror when you're shaving's been working for you. Thank you again, Thruster. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And we'll look forward to your company when next we meet for round 7 of the championship at Queensland Race 8. Wasteway. Bye for now.
See ya.